We're going to be talking all about comments in this lesson. So, what do I recommend about comments just to kickstart things off here? I recommend that you don't do them. And it may sound weird for me to say that because comments can obviously seem very powerful to do on Instagram. But the main issue is, you can spot a fake comment from a mile away. How many times do have you looked at your own post and say, this comment doesn't seem really that authentic, or you've even looked at other people's posts and you can just say, this comment is automated, and it just really harms that Instagram account sort of look and sort of overall brand presence if they are a brand. So what I recommend you do is you just don't do comments, but I know some of you out there will want to actually, enable this and start using it, utilizing the power of it. So I do have settings here to go through. These are going to be very conservative because doing comments on Instagram, firstly, it does come off very spammy. So we're going to have nice and big open sort of automation times to ensure that it doesn't look like you're just mass spamming comments all day, and it's just going to stop you getting blocked. So we are in the comments. We're going to make sure our wait time is between 45 and 60 minutes between each new operation. But yeah, we're playing it really safe here. At the end of the day, you can basically do 24 comments per day, 24 hours, 60 being the maximum amount of time. If it goes in between, it's going to just be a little bit over that. Let's say on average, you're sort of peaking between 20 to 30 comments per day. And I really recommend you stay between that because otherwise it's just going to come off really spammy once again. And not many people will actually write, 30 comments per day. So this keeps you looking more human. We're going to make sure we only comment one time in that 60-minute gap, so make sure this is 1-to-1. We're going to make sure delay, it doesn't actually matter here because we only are going to be commenting once, so we'll just leave it as 30 to 60, or you can just leave it to whatever default is. If you want to play it really safe, you can just put this to 55 to 75, just like the others we've done. We'll leave all this alone, we don't need to touch it. We are going to come down here though. We're going to comment on a maximum of 1 to 2 to kickstart things off. We're going to start your comments really low, so the first day it's either going to comment once or twice, and then you're just going to increase that by 3 each day until it reaches a maximum of 50. You never want to go above 50 comments on Instagram. Some people say, oh, you can do 100 comments per day, but no one realistically does that. If you're automating, yes you can, but it's going to make you stick out like a sore thumb, so don't do it. User filters, optional once again, but we're going to skip non-English. We're going to make sure the user is not following this account. We're just going to skip followers. There's no point really commenting on their stuff. You can add in some blacklisted users here. These are just going to be people you'll never leave a comment on their profile. So you could put in, competitor accounts here if you're a business, all that good stuff. We're going to make sure the user has a number of followers or followings in a specific range, exactly like we did on our follows. It's going to be 20 to 1,500 and 20 to 1,500 followings. So we're going to make sure they just don't have a crazy amount of followers for a start because they're not going to care about your comment. And we're also going to make sure they're not following a ton of people as well. So if they do follow you back off, you leaving a comment, they're not, following 5,000 people and then you have to compete with the 5,000 other people they're following. Optional as well. Males, females, both males and females, or all, and then of course the language selection. Feel free to change this as you wish. I would just leave it to all, and then just language as default. So in our post filters, we are going to either comment on images and videos that are posted in the last 3 days. Just like we've talked about before with this option, you can bring this down to 1 or 2 or 3. Either or works. If you know you're going to be targeting stuff where there's lots of content being uploaded, leave this at 1. If you're not too sure, 3 is just going to give you a nice sort of a time frame of sort of comments you can leave. 1 though, however, keeping this in mind, will seem the most realistic. Most people will comment on fresh content and not go out there and comment on old content. So if you want my personal opinion, leave it to 1. If you're not too sure, leave it to 3. We're going to not limit by number of likes. We are going to filter posts by number of comments though. I recommend you only comment on stuff with at least 3 comments. You can lower this down to 1. I would recommend someone else has at least commented on the post because that's kind of giving you, in a way, social proof that it's not a weird image. Someone else has commented on it. So you should be safe to leave a comment. Of course though, keeping in mind that comment could be saying like, I can't believe you uploaded this is horrible. Take it down or whatever. So, I leave it at 3 just to give a bit more proof on the image. And then we don't want there to be too many comments, otherwise you're just not going to stand out. So we'll cap it at 100. We can choose a random post from the most recent user's post. This is optional. This is sort of going to come into play once we jump into the sources. You can either literally turn this on or off. It's not going to be too much of a difference, but just know it is there. We can obviously target stuff if a post caption does contain any specific words. If you enable this, it's really going to limit the number of results you can actually get back. Because, you know, if we said, oh, if the caption contains surfing, we have to keep in mind how many posts out there on Instagram that, you know, have the word surfing in it. Probably not as many. So yeah, be wary of this, but you can obviously target specific stuff. We obviously want to make sure that the caption doesn't contain any of these nasty words. I've got the blacklist down below for you, or you can just come into your likes or follows or even like comments and copy and paste that across. But it's all the same words, just like we've used them. Alright, after comment actions, these are all different options here. You can enable these, disable these. I'll go through them because they all do some pretty cool things. But typically we are going to just be leaving them mostly all off, apart from remove poor quality sources. But enable dynamic mentions. So if you want to actually mention people, in a post, you can come in here, enable dynamic mentions. You can add their usernames in here. I don't really see the reason for doing this too much, unless you were sort of spamming Instagram, which you shouldn't be in general. I do not ever, you know, condone that. I never recommend you should go out and spam Instagram. But the only people I could see doing this is if they were saying, you know, follow this account and just had the username sort of spammed in there. But either way, you can just enable that in our actual comments we're going to be doing and setting up in a minute. But like I said, don't do that. Don't spam Instagram. It's an amazing platform. You shouldn't be trying to harm a user's experience on it. You can also mention non-existing users. Once again, I just don't really recommend you do these. It's going to make you seem really botty and spammy. So yeah, there's just no point doing it. We're also not going to like the post after a comment, because we are dedicating our likes into follows and also into liking your users' feeds. So remember, it's going to start stacking up the amount of likes you do in a day, and we're already basically capped out. So yeah, don't go any more above it. We're going to remove poor quality sources though. We're leaving this pretty roughly at the default here at 0.05. It's going to be less common for people to follow you back, and also 1,000 comments. That's a lot of comments to go through. You can definitely lower this if you want, but after 1,000 comments, if it's a 0.05 follow back ratio, then it's going to remove that source for you. You can also delete your comment after 1 day. I actually do, in a weird way, recommend this, because, you know, your comments sometimes don't really resonate with what the image is about. Let's say, for example, someone uploads a picture of, like, I'm gonna go a bit extreme here, so excuse me, but like, say an animal that's been run over and it's pretty graphic, and you comment on this, oh, like, awesome image, I love this. You know, it doesn't really look good in any way. This is why I don't like doing comments in for a start, because you never know what you're going to comment on. But if you delete that after a day, at least it is deleted, it's gone, it's not going to sort of be surfacing about. So definitely a good option here. And then we will make sure we leave suspend tool when getting temporary block for 600 minutes. That just shows you how bad comments are in general, even that they have an option down here ready to be blocked. They've included it, so you know, just pre-warning you guys. But like I said, I don't recommend doing comments, but if you want to do them, please feel free to go about it. Sources. So this is where we can actually start saying, you know, how we want to target people. These are pretty much going to be the same as how we do our follows. We're going to be targeting people who are following accounts, and also people who are engaging, so interacting, you know, liking, commenting on their posts. So pretty much as simple as that. You can definitely enable these other ones and go through them as you wish, such as like geolocation, hashtags. So for hashtags, you just come in here, you type in your keywords. If you want to do like surfing, you would do that. If you wanted to do like love, I know my capitals are on that, but yeah, you just type them in as keywords. But what we want to use is this one. And then I'm going to jump into the comments here. I'm going to talk about how you can actually write comments that are going to seem less spammy, more unique, and give you a wider range of comments, which is easier to actually write out in the long run. So let's say, for example, you wanted to just say, hey, and then the username. I love this post. This is a really generic comment. You definitely should make it more meaningful, or just sort of like give out emojis like thumbs up or like heart eyes, different things like that. But you should play around and sort of develop your own comment system. I'm just sort of going to go through a generic one here. So what we could do is say hey. And then right down here we do have these tokens. So we could say hey, and then if we click on username, it's going to actually, whoever uploaded the picture is going to say their username here. So it's going to say hey username. Then we could put a comma, for example. And then what we could do, we could say this photo is awesome and cool. Right now we have basically a pretty standard comment. You'll see this like posted everywhere on Instagram. It's just so obvious to see when people are automating comments. But this is pretty generic. So what we can do is we can add spin tags on top of this to sort of really start randomizing up and giving this simple sentence a lot more sort of depth to it. So instead of it saying, you know, this photo is awesome, what we could do is we could add these curly brackets. So it's the sort of like swirly one. I don't really know how to explain it on your keyboard. You just have a general bracket. If you press shift, it's in the curly bracket. They may have an actual legit name. If you know it, leave a comment down below. But yeah, you open it up with that little curly bracket, and then what you want to do is add a straight line. So just one of the straight lines on your keyboard, and then we could say this photo is cool, and then we'll add another straight line, and we could say this photo is, you know, like sweet, and this photo is really dope, or something like that. So you can add 2 words in between, and basically each of these straight lines is separating a different word that could be used. And then we can close it off with a curly bracket. And then what's going to happen is when Jarvee looks at this, it's going to say, hey username, this photo is, and then it's going to pick one of these random words within our curly brackets. So we can click check spin tags here. I recommend you do this as well. You want to make sure your comment is working. We'll click check spin tags, so it's going to say, hey, if we were commenting on Barack Obama's thing, post, this photo is cool. So it's chosen cool this time. We can press OK, check spin tags, hey, this photo is awesome, yep, or great, this photo is sweet. So yeah, you can see it's picking a random, it's choose sweet this time again. That's natural, it's just going to keep picking random words from this. So, you know, you can basically add that, and then what you could do as well is for photo, you could say this pic, this photo, this post, and then all of a sudden you can see how this is going to start creating a ton of variants of what you're going to actually end up writing, because, you know, it could choose pic and awesome, pic and cool, pic and sweet, pic and really dope. It could use photo, awesome. You know, all of a sudden there's a lot more variants coming out, which is a really good way to do it. And then finally, you know, you could also add an emoji, and don't be afraid, you can spin tags emojis as well. Let's say we just add a smiley here, for example. We'll add the curly braces, we'll do the line, add an emoji again. There should be a thumbs up down here if I'm correct. Yeah, so we'll just leave those 2. And then check spin tags, smiley face with cool, smiley face with cool, sweet with a thumbs up, you know. So all of a sudden we have like a lot of different variants. This sort of one line could maybe have like 50 different actual comments it could leave. So make sure you spin tags your stuff, because, you know, it's really important to get that going. And then finally, because we haven't actually got into it yet, you want to add in those accounts. So I recommend, you know, if you've already added them into your followers, add in accounts where you think they're competitors, your demographics there, your audience who you think will like your stuff is going to be. Like I sort of said in the follows lesson, you can check out the lesson above in the automation introduction sort of section, where I talk about finding your target accounts and competitor accounts on Instagram. But yeah, you want to add them in there. The same goes for here. You want to just create a comment. You can even copy and paste it across, add in the same accounts, and then you'll be targeting people and commenting. To finish stuff up, we have the results. You can come in here, you can view the follow back ratio. It's going to open up this notepad. It will say like what the source is, the ratio, how many people follow back, etc., which is cool. You can export, delete, all that good stuff. But once you're done, if you want to run comments, once again, I do not recommend it. But if you want to run them, click on start and it's going to start commenting on those profiles for you.